Westmoreland Community Connections is a presentation of the Westmoreland Drug and Alcohol Commission.
Welcome to Westmoreland Community Connections, a look at issues and happenings on Classic Hits 107.1 WHJB. Here now is your host, Chad Amond, President and CEO of the Westmoreland County Chamber of Commerce.
Hello and welcome to Westmoreland Community Connections. I'm your host, President and CEO of the Westmoreland County Chamber of Commerce, Chad Amond. I am delighted to have on the show today Candy Valentino. Candy is the board president and founder of Animal Friend Sanctuary, but she has a tremendous background in business and connection to the community. So, Candy, welcome to the show.
Awesome. Thanks so much for having me this morning, Chad. It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, we're glad to have you on. And in reading an article about you in the recent Goal magazine, I was stunned. I just was amazed at your background and going back to business, at 8 years old?
Yeah, 8 years old. My little golf ball business. Yeah, it's always a fun story.
Well, for the listeners that didn't have the chance to read the article, let's talk a little bit about your background. Go back to that golf ball business at 8 years old and tell them a little bit about how you proceeded to get to Animal Friend Sanctuary.
Oh, absolutely. Great question. So I'm born and raised here in Westmoreland County. My dad had a business in Youngwood growing up, and so I've been basically exposed to entrepreneurship and hard work my entire life. Most kids learn soccer or dance, and I basically learned how to treat people and run a business from a very young age. So as early as 8 years old, I had a little golf ball business where I would go around and collect golf balls in our yard before I would mow the grass. And I would sort them by brand. And I learned that all the golfers, because we lived right on the corner of Cherry Creek Golf Course at the time, and so I would set up my little egg cartons with all my golf balls and sell them back to the golfers. And I realized that all the ones that said Titleist sold a lot quicker than the ones that said Wilson. So supply and demand was a first-hand issue that I learned, and started selling those golf balls, and then from there on just basically had little businesses my whole life and started my first business, real business, when I was 19.
Well, I'm thinking a lot of those golf balls were probably mine.
Yeah.
Because if they weren't on the fairway, they were probably in your yard.
Yeah, that's right.
Exactly.
Exactly.
That's the way that it happens. Well, everybody has inspirational people that mentor them or have an impact. I mean, I could name my list, but we're gonna name your list. Who are some of the people that have influenced your life?
There's been so many. I would say one of the first female role models that I had, which of course never met, but learning about in school, was Rosa Parks. Somebody that, stood for something that was right and just, regardless if it was legal. Somebody that was a pioneer before her time. So that was somebody that really spoke to me at a very young age. And then I was exposed to Tony Robbins, who I have given credit in many interviews as completely changing my life. When I was 15 years old, I was up in the middle of the night watching an infomercial. You know how they just run in the middle of the night and there's nothing else on. And I see this guy on TV, and he is just larger than life, talking about that you don't have to be a product of your circumstances and you can change your life. And I bought those tapes at the time. They were the old style cassette tapes. I'm that old to have those. And really adopted those principles and put me on a personal development path for the last 20 years. So he was very, very instrumental in my life as well.
Wow. And so, that building of that mentorship and the influence of people in your life probably got you to the place where you started the business, right? I mean, Animal Friend Sanctuary isn't the first business that you've started. Going back to the golf balls, but you did start businesses when you were younger, and maybe a little bit more of what we'll call a legitimate business rather than selling the golf balls, right?
Absolutely. And it was instrumental. I truly believe that without those influences in my life would not have been put on the trajectory that it is and is become today. Watching him at 15 and listening to those tapes basically put me on a course for my life to start my first business, which is Platinum Salon and Spa, which is here in Westmoreland County. Super proud to be in the community. I have a wonderful team of staff that works there and great clients that support us. So started that when I was 19. And without those building blocks of those people, I know I wouldn't be where I am today. I also invested in real estate when I was 24. Just started wanting to diversify income and not just have one business. Then got into product-based companies. Now I do online stuff with coaching and consulting for other business owners. So I like to be diverse. I get bored easily, so I need to have a lot of irons in the fire. And then that, of course, those things led me at 26 to start the foundation, Animal Friends of Westmoreland, which then has grown into Animal Friends Sanctuary.
We're going to talk a lot more about Animal Friends Sanctuary and Animal Friends of Westmoreland, but when you talked about your business and you talked about the great team, isn't that the key? I mean, when you have,
key to everything.
I sometimes say, people will say, "Oh, you do a good job at the chamber." I say, I have one of the abilities that I have is the ability to hire great people. Mm-hmm. If you don't have a great team, it's just not going to happen.
Right.
And so you obviously have that the ability to hire great people, right?
Yeah, and I have some incredible people. My team, they're literally, we're like family. I was just texting with one of my staff that's been with me for 18 years, another that's been 17 years, 10 years. Just incredible, loyal, big-hearted people. So if I've done anything right, it's to understand that I can't do anything myself. And that is to know that you have to be surrounded by people who offset your strengths and weaknesses. And there are so many people on my team that do things far, far better than I do. And I mean that 110%. Right. I just can kind of like steer the course and make all the pieces work. But they each individually do things far better than I do.
Right. Well, if there's someone out there listening that says, "Hey, I'm thinking about starting my own business," what advice would you give them?
Well, first off, starting a business in this day and age is far easier in so many ways than it was 18 years ago starting out, because as far as role models, people always say, oh, I don't really know, or I don't know where to begin. There is so much free information on the internet now today, and there's so many great podcasts and just a lot of personal development people. So I would say first and foremost, there's 3 books that I recommend that really transformed my life. Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, which should be the very first one that anyone that's listening has not read should listen or should read. The Magic of Thinking Big would be the second one, and The Slight Edge from Joel. No, that's not his name, but The Slight Edge. His name just left me. 3 incredible books. And then, start looking up people online. Tony Robbins is amazing in business. Brendan Bouchard, who's a dear friend of mine. He's one of the most influential people in the world right now. So there's a lot of resources. And then I would also say that the basics. People are starving to be noticed. People are starving to be recognized. It's not about what people can do for you. It's what you can do for them. It's the value that they can provide. It's the value that you can provide into their life. And when you can get that as a business principle, it's going to just grow every other aspect of your life. So I would say, number 1, check in with your mindset, making sure that you're going into business for the right reason, and then it's not for yourself. It's actually for the community and for your team, and to actually better others' lives. And then number 2 is always making sure that you're providing more value into people's lives.
You're absolutely right. Those resources. One of the others that I think is outstanding is From Good to Great.
Yes,
From
it's
Good
a great
to Great.
one too. Read that too. Yes,
it is fabulous. You're listening to Westmoreland Community Connections on Classic Hits 107.1 WHJB. We're talking with Candy Valentino. Candy is the board president, founder of Animal Friends of Westmoreland and the new Animal Friends Sanctuary. Candy, let's get into the Animal Friends of Westmoreland and Animal Friends Sanctuary. Talk a little bit about what inspired you to start the foundation, Animal Friends of Westmoreland, and then the sanctuary.
Oh, great. And I love talking about this part far better than the first part, because I get so excited about.
Well, we have to build the foundation,
yes,
right?
We do. But so I remember leaving the spa one day, and I was getting into real estate. I bought a building at the corner of Depot Street and 3rd in Youngwood, and I just, like classic me, I get myself into something, and I don't exactly know what I want to do, and I feel my way through. So I bought this building, didn't know what I was going to do with it. I was driving by one day, and I was like, what are you going to do with that building? And it was like a voice that was as audible as you and I were speaking right now said,
Really?
Put your animal shelter there. And I've always had this like gut intuition about my whole entire life about like being drawn towards certain things, but that was very, very strong. Wow. So from that moment on, I started getting involved with people and said, I'm going to develop a 501c3. I'd always had a love for animals. I did my first little fundraiser when I was like 7 years old when my dog got hit by a car. And we weren't able to afford the surgery. And so I said to my dad, please, whatever we need to do. And so I went and took little coffee cans, like the old Folgers coffee cans, to all the little local businesses in Youngwood and collected change to help pay for my dog's surgery. So I always had a love for all the stray animals, always wanted to help and bring them home, and wanted to just basically leave an impact on the community because of how grateful and how blessed I felt to be supported and our team to be supported for so long being in business. So that kind of just started the groundwork for the 501c3. And I, again, surrounded myself by people that had already done it. I have no legal background, no nonprofit experience, but I just had a heart and a drive to serve and figured out the rest along the way.
Well, what started that love of animals? I mean, obviously, you know, everybody loves their, and my kids, I have four kids. We just got a new puppy, and it's the greatest.
Yeah,
right?
It is.
And
it is.
But you seem to have a passion at a level that exceeds the pet love, right?
Right. Yeah.
I mean, I obviously I see you on Facebook, and you're saving all kinds of animals, not just the cute puppies,
right?
And
Yeah.
so, how did that start?
I think that for me, I relate a lot to those animals. No childhood is easy and no one's past is perfect. And so I think for me, growing up the way that I did, come to teenage parents, not a lot of resources, had some not great things happen throughout life. Like, I think that I relate to those animals because I get when you don't have a voice and you can't say what you want. I mean, I went to a very cult-like religious school where it was all about restriction and submission to rules and things like that. So you weren't able to just be you. And so I think that I relate to those animals that don't have anyone. I relate to the animals that feel like they're disregarded and there's no one to speak for them. So I have that like almost 10-level empathy that when they're going through something, I physically feel it. Like when those animals come into the shelter or the animals that come into the sanctuary and they're scared and they're fearful and they don't trust humans, like I get it. Like I absolutely get it. So for me, that's why I want to be a voice for all species of animals, because I believe that they are all emotional and they're all intelligent. And just because they can't speak doesn't mean that they shouldn't be heard.
You're listening to Westmoreland Community Connections on Classic Hits 107.1 WHJB. We're talking with Candy Valentino, Animal Friends Sanctuary Board President and Founder. We're going to be right back after these messages. We're going to get a little bit more in depth with what Animal Friends of Westmoreland does and what the sanctuary can do to help our community. Thanks for listening, everyone.
This is Westmoreland Community Connections on Classic Hits 107.1 WHJB. If you have a suggestion for a topic, or if your nonprofit organization would like to be featured on this program, call us during regular business hours at 724-216-1200.
Westmoreland Community Connections is a presentation of the Westmoreland Drug and Alcohol Commission.
Welcome back. You're listening to Westmoreland Community Connections on Classic Hits 107.1 WHJB. We're talking with Candy Valentino. Candy is the board president and founder of Animal Friends of Westmoreland and the Animal Friends Sanctuary, which, Candy, when did the Animal Friends Sanctuary launch?
So we just bought the property. I actually searched and agreed upon it in the end of 2016, and we just actually closed on everything in the 2017. It was March, so closed on that property, and then we had to wait till the ground thawed and all that stuff, and then we just went gangbusters on construction and renovation. It was supposed to be a 12-month project. I did it in 4.
Oh, wow.
That's the way you work. And so
did you work 25 hours a day?
Pretty much, pretty much. But for anyone listening, again, back to the business stuff too, if you want to actually really achieve big, massive goals, set yourself with an unachievable deadline. It's the best way to get everything to show up in you. And it also, there's this piece too, that when you put that intention out there, the universe kind of helps you conspire to get there. So gave ourselves an unachievable deadline of October to actually have an event. So we did a ribbon cutting and an event for 500 people at the sanctuary, and did our first live rescue and rescued 8 animals and brought them to the farm as well.
That's great. Well, we talked about the team. How does the team respond to the unattainable deadline?
They are amazing. And my gosh, Bethany, Anna, Amy, they are amazing. Bethany calls it the tornado, the human tornado. So you just better get going or it's going to knock you over. But no, they're great. We all work, again, we work well together. They're very calm, very detail oriented. I'm big vision. I'm go, go, go. So it's a great, great compliment. Yeah. And again, wouldn't be able to do it without any of them. And all of our volunteers. We have a massive army of volunteers that support our mission and our cause. They actually get down and dirty with the animals. They help support our events. They do social media outreach, all sorts of things. So without the volunteers and the staff, none of it would be possible.
Maybe we need to take a step back. I mean, I think everybody knows what Animal Friends of Westmoreland does, but for those listeners that maybe say, "Oh yeah, I've heard of it, but I'm not exactly sure." Tell the listeners what does Animal Friends of Westmoreland do?
So Animal Friends of Westmoreland, we basically have our physical location in Youngwood, and we rescue companion animals, dogs, cats, rabbits. We provide any type of medical care that they need, regardless of age, the animal's age, breed, medical condition. A lot of the animals that we take in, maybe other shelters wouldn't because of an age of a senior pet, or that they have an ongoing medical problem, or perhaps it's even 2 dogs that were owner surrenders, which just means that their owners could no longer provide care for some reason, so they surrender them to our organization. Some of those animals are bonded. What they mean is just, say for example, you have 2 dogs and something happens. Well, those 2 dogs now lived in a home for, say, 4 years, 8 years, 10 years.
Oh, yeah, and they're like brother and sister.
Exactly, right? So imagine not only now is that animal taken out of the home that they're familiar with, but now is removed from their sibling. A lot of shelters do that just because, not that there's anything necessarily wrong with that, but it's just the way that they're set up. Mm-hmm. For us, it's super important for the health of the animal to keep them with any other animal that they're familiar with. So we'll take those cases, which are difficult. Like right now, we have a bonded pair that we've had for quite some time, just because it's tough for somebody to want to come and adopt 2 animals together. Mm-hmm. So we also provide veterinarian services. We do, for the community, and also where if there's stray animals out, people will come across a stray animal or an injured animal, they'll come and bring them to the shelter. And then we rehome them. And we've done almost 4,000 adoptions since we opened, which is super cool.
That was going to be my next question. How many animals? 4,000
animals?
We're
close to 4,000 since we opened.
And it's animals all across the spectrum. It's not just puppies and kitties, right?
Correct. Yeah. So it's puppies, kitties, rabbits, older dogs, senior dogs, one-eyed dogs, 3-legged dogs, cats that maybe have ongoing issues or whatnot. But so we've had it's been incredible. And actually, we're kind of known to be the shelter that we actually don't typically have a lot of puppies and kitties because we take in all of those other animals that, in my opinion, and I think this is just the way that I've set the organization up, like those animals almost get priority for us because everyone's going to take the puppies, everyone's going to adopt the puppies. Not everyone's going to take the 12-year-old blind dog. And so I want to make sure that we have space for all of those animals, because I think they're the ones that need the love the most.
Yeah, right. Well, we just had an adoption agency on, and it was
wonderful.
Probably not very dissimilar that they were saying that whenever a toddler is much more likely to be adopted than a 12 or 14-year-old child. So and I'm trying to make the connection of, you obviously are having a huge impact on the animals themselves. Mm-hmm. What is the impact having for the humans? I would imagine that is helping those folks too. Maybe somebody that can't take care of their dog, that is going to be able to give them to animal friends, and it's gonna help their heart as well.
It's so multifaceted. So not only is it a service to the person, like you said, Chad, that needs a good place to take this animal to. So there's that person that we're helping. Then we have all of the staff and volunteers, which, I mean, I get texts from our volunteers weekly that just say thank you for doing what you do so that I can do what I do, because these are people that also have a love for animals but maybe can't do the big thing or don't want to do the big thing, because it is crazy to start an organization, but they get to come in and volunteer, and they get stress relief, and they get to walk away from all their craziness in their life and just volunteer 2 hours and contribute. So we're helping those people. Then we're actually, then the third phase is the new family. So whether it's, we've had situations where a gentleman that I can think of right now felt that he was going to commit suicide, and the reason that he didn't was because of that dog that he met at the shelter that day and wanted to adopt.
Oh, wow.
And there are stories after stories after stories. There's another guy was going through it was either kidney or liver transplant surgery, and sent us a letter and said if it wasn't for that dog that he adopted, that he doesn't think he would have made it, but he wanted to get up every day to see that dog because he didn't have a spouse or kids or whatnot. So we're positively affecting all of those people along the way. And then it's spreading an even deeper mission, because now we're teaching others, we're teaching kids, we're teaching other people to be more compassionate, to have more kindness, to make sure that you do stop if you see an animal that's injured, or make sure that you do speak up if you see somebody injuring an animal. So it's really creating ripple effects of kindness into the world. And I don't think starting out I had any idea about any of that. I just wanted to help the animals.
Right.
And as I got involved with more kids and more teenagers and more adults, I saw that, wow, this is making such a big impact in our community and really the world.
And when we talk about the sanctuary, I see the posts that, you're saving pigs and cows and all of those things. Talk a little bit about that. Why I think probably most of the listeners would say, "Oh yeah, that's sweet. We're saving the older dog, we're saving the older cat." And how did you get into saving the farm animals, and what impact is that having?
So that's a whole other piece, and it's really it's a shift in philosophy. It's a shift in the view, and it's completely against societal norms. So like you said, a lot of people are like, "Oh, that's so great as a dog," and then once you start talking about this other piece of like saving cows and pigs, it sometimes gives people resistance because it's changing the way that they've been taught to think and view animals for their entire life. But if we want to look at the difference of, like, let's look at the world 100 years ago, we were actually taught to basically discriminate against people the same way, right? We were all humans, but you as a white man and me as a white female, we actually were viewed differently, even though we were both humans. And then you as a white man and a friend that's a black man are viewed differently, but you're both humans. So now, even though like we've come to a point, thank God, in our world that we view all humans the same, we haven't actually spread that kindness to all species. Yeah. So in our opinion, when I look at a dog and I look at a cow and I look at my pig that I have at home, I don't see any different, because I know that those animals are all uniquely different, but they're uniquely intelligent, they're emotional, they love their babies like we love babies, they know me. Like when I go to the farm, Mary the cow literally knows it's me. Like she doesn't confuse me, just like your dog does when you come home.
Yeah.
So I don't think people understand that all we're just basically doing is trying to evolve our society to see animals in that same regard. And it sometimes takes people to remove that mask of what they've been taught for their entire life and be exposed to them. A lot of times people will meet some of the animals and then they're like, whoa, I didn't understand that these baby cows are like big puppies. And I'm like, yeah, they play with balls and they run around and they play with each other. So the sanctuary, we're doing the same thing. We are rescuing animals from abuse, whether that they are abandoned, beaten, neglected, or they were going to be killed. And then we're telling the stories of those animals, rehabilitating them. And then we're bringing in people and kids. We have a program with at-risk youth that we're going to be telling the stories of those animals to the kids to foster hope and healing. Because it's our belief that if we can take an animal that was neglected, abused, and abandoned, and we can bring a child that experienced that same and similar circumstance, that they might not trust you or I because we might have been the source of their pain,
Right.
but they might relate to the story of that animal and then give them hope that they too can love and trust one day.
So ultimately, you're helping people to be nicer and caring, right?
Yeah. More kind, more compassionate.
Right.
You know, there's enough hate in the world. I think it's time that we focus on
there is
spreading
surely
love.
enough hate in the
Yeah.
world. So what's the horizon for the foundation? What are you looking forward to? You're working 25 hours a day right now, so
Yeah. The 2018 is a huge year this year. Like I said, we are going to be launching our at-risk youth program for kids. We're actually going to be working with some other nonprofits in the community for that, which I'm really excited about. We're also going to be breaking ground on our horse sanctuary, where we're going to be building a barn specifically for horses. And at the same time, which again, a little crazy, but we're going to be breaking ground on our new state-of-the-art shelter that's also going to be located on that 60-acre property. So we're going to be able to double our capacity. We're going to have a low-cost spay-neuter clinic for the community, as well as a store where people can come in and purchase their dog and cat food, and it'll actually go back and fund the organization. So that is going to be a year-long endeavor, because that is a massive building with an outdoor like dog park area that people will be able to come to, an off-leash area for the animals. We will have walking trails for the community to be able to come for enrichment activities with their animals, as well as the programs that will be open to the public on Saturdays for people to be able to come and tour the sanctuary and see all that we do.
Candy, give the listeners an idea. Where is the sanctuary?
Oh, yeah. So Unity Township. So if you go past kind of like where the Mountain View Inn is, on the right-hand side, that's kind of Beatty Crossroads. Mm-hmm. It's on Smiths Hill Road, right on the right-hand side there, 60 acres. And we have a big, beautiful sign out. So if you want to take a drive by, we won't be open to the public till the spring, but we will be more in touch with people so that they understand. And anyone can jump on our Facebook page and follow our story and see what as we're progressing.
You're listening to Westmoreland Community Connections on Classic Hits 107.1 WHJB. We're talking with Candy Valentino. Candy is the board president and founder of Animal Friends of Westmoreland and the Animal Friends Sanctuary. Candy, with your outstanding background, your caring and compassion, and your entrepreneurship, I think that you need to end this with three things that the listeners need to know about you. Three things.
Three things. Well, I think what I'd rather do is give them three things that they should know about them.
Okay.
And that is that at any moment, anyone that's listening to this, you might be thinking like, oh my gosh, that sounds great. You know, you start a business, you have a nonprofit, you're doing all these great things. But at any moment, any one of us have complete control of our thoughts. We can't respond to the way that life comes at us, but we can always choose how we respond to it. So I think if that's one thing that to maybe put a positive impact on everybody's life is just remember that you can always control the way that you see the world. So if you feel like you're not where you want to be, that shift can happen at any moment. Number two, I would say that to always remember that it is not about what we get, but it's about what we contribute. And I believe that every single person here listening today, you're here for a reason, and if you wake up tomorrow, it's because you haven't found out what that reason is. So find out what your purpose is, give back, contribute in some way, so that you leave the world a little bit better than the way that you came into it. And then thirdly, I would say is to leave an impact. You know, leave an impact. And if that just means that, you know, you smile at people more, or that you're a little bit more friendly, or that you might want to look into what we're doing at the sanctuary and see how we view the world and how we view animals, then do that. But don't take one more day and just waste it. You know, we only have these 24 hours, and we don't know what tomorrow holds. So for me, it's all about making sure to get out there, get up every morning, and make an impact and a difference in other people's lives.
What an amazing woman. Candy Valentino, board president and founder of Animal Friends of Westmoreland and the Animal Friends Sanctuary. You're making an impact on Westmoreland County, and we thank you for that. You've been listening to Westmoreland Community Connections on Classic Hits 107.1 WHJB. If you want to connect with Candy, you can jump on her website, candyvalentino.com. And Candy, how would somebody get in touch with the sanctuary?
Yeah,
Facebook page and all that stuff?
Absolutely. So not only I have links, of course, on my own page that
Sure.
you just mentioned, but also animalfriendsanctuary.org. We're also Animal Friends Sanctuary on Instagram, and I think we're still Animal Friends of Westmoreland on Facebook. So Facebook, Instagram, but look us up. We have an event coming up April 21st at the Palace Theater. Our friends at the Palace, we have our Dancing with the Celebrities event, so that information will be on our website as well.
We're going to get you back on for Dancing with the Celebrities.
Awesome.
We're going to have to promote that. We're going to promote all of these
Awesome.
events that you're doing. Again, CandyValentino.com. You've been listening to Westmoreland Community Connections on Classic Hits 107.1 WHJB. Join us next week, same time, same place, for another edition of Westmoreland Community Connections. Thanks for listening, everyone.
This has been Westmoreland Community Connections, a look at issues and happenings in and around Westmoreland County. Join us again next week on Classic Hits 107.1 WHJB.
Westmoreland Community Connections is a presentation of the Westmoreland Drug and Alcohol Commission.